the church, but beyond our walls through Love the A1A and different projects like that. And you guys have done such a wonderful job doing that. I mean, this church is known in Burbank because of the work that you guys do. You guys are such a generous community. I'm just so thankful to be a part of it. And one of the things that the old pastor Dave used to say is like, we want to be so involved in the city that if we disappeared, they would notice, they would feel it. And I'm just so thankful for Pastor JR that has carried that same heart. So can you give him a round of applause? I'm just so thankful. It makes me feel really good to know that you guys are doing even greater things that we've done in the past. So before I start getting too emotional, let me tell you why I'm here, which is about ACE, is the Alliance for Community Empowerment. It's where I work now. And it's an incredible, well-established nonprofit that I'm looking forward for us to partner more with. And one of the things that they do is they've been around for 11 years, and they started out with a high school called Youth Build. And this high school is for young adults that have struggled through traditional school systems, that have dropped out or just never got their high school diploma. And so this is for 16 to 24-year-old young adults, and they're not just getting their GED, they're actually getting their high school diploma, which is incredible. One of the things I love to say about ACE is it's helping people get their second chance at life. And this is how it helps the young adults. So this is the very first program. They don't just get their high school diploma, high school education. They also get career training. Like, they're out there learning how to use all these tools. One of the houses that I'll tell you about in a little bit, they help build it, which is incredible. They're learning a bunch of different things. But I know ACE understood that to be able to affect an individual, you have to support their support systems. And so from there, it grew into the next one, which is GRID, which is our prevention program. So in the community that we serve in the Valley, we deal with a lot of individuals that have been influenced through gang violence. And so the prevention program is for the 10 to 15-year-olds, so any of the younger siblings of those enrolled in the Youth Build program, to just get involved in an after-school program so that they're not just out there with their peers doing things they shouldn't be doing. But here, we're helping them learn how to build skateboards, which is incredible. And then the next program that we have is really a central program, which is the Department of Behavioral Health. We have a program that gives literally free therapy, no insurance needed, to all of our program participants, which is a lot. A lot of people are getting free therapy, because that's kind of where it starts, right? How we think. If we could change the way they think, they changes their actions. And so it's just a beautiful program. And then the next one is our community violence intervention. So again, we deal with those that have been involved in gang violence, have been affected by gang violence. And what our CVI program does is that whenever there is violence in the community, they will go out. These people are like the toughest, bravest people I know. They'll go out into wherever, if there's a shooting between two gangs, they'll go out and try to mediate conversations. They've written peace treaties, seriously peace treaties between gang members, and just trying to intervene within violence within the community. Very, very beautiful things. And then the next one, just a few more. ACE parenting. Of course, you can't affect an individual going through high school without supporting their support systems. And the biggest one that I believe, even when I was here, is parents. We have to support parents. They need help. It's their first time trying to figure that out. So building that support system through ACE Parenting, I believe it's funded by Walmart. They give classes, individual one-to-one coaching, all for free. Everything here that they provide is free. And then the last one is called our Sector program. This is so beautiful. But it's a prison program, basically. So those who are in prison and those who are out of prison, they help the whole re-entry process for people that were doing life in prison. And they'll give them things like money for gas, just so that they would start off on the right foot and not just alone. Again, the ACE provides a second chance for people. And so they do that. They do job training. They'll pay them for certain things. But the biggest thing that we just started, and this is a picture from a week or two ago, we opened the House of Ruth that some of the other participants from different programs actually build the house, but it's a house for those coming out of prison. So as soon as they get out of prison, if they were in the program while they were in prison, and in prison they get coaching and all that stuff, but they immediately get housing. And it's just very beautiful. This is the first participant that walks through the doors of the House of Ruth, and he walks in with a giant smile with a shirt that says, "God got me." So incredible things. Yeah, very incredible things. Now, ACE is pretty well known. Like, we have congressmen, congresswomen coming through the doors all the time. Some incredible funders, partners like Harbor Freight, Walmart, a bunch of different partners. But they fund specific programs, but the heart of the programs is ACE itself. And a lot of the way nonprofits work is they'll fund the work, but not how the work gets done, so the operations. And so how we fund those things and how you can help, at least this time, is through a golf tournament that we're running. So yeah, very laborious if you want to help. It's really fun. It's going to be an awesome time. It's going to be really, really great. I think we got Shirt Cannon, Ace Mellowman, if you know who he is going to be there, and tacos and a bunch of awesome things. But if you're not into golf, there's a few other ways that you can help, which is by spreading flyers. We have flyers in the community room. Come by the table, just joining the newsletter, or we also need auction items that we need to give away. Just a bunch of things that you can do to help, and we could use all the help that we can get. And I'm going to take this off because ACE is not a religious organization, and I want to speak to you, church family. What ACE does is very beautiful. But what would it look like if not only all these participants are getting the help that they need, but they see where the support is coming from the church? And we're standing on those names, that the church is very generous. And we were in a meeting the other day, like, where are we going to get all these sponsors for these events? We need players. We haven't gotten any players yet. It's coming up September 30th. We need auction items. And I went up, after the meeting, I went up to our intern and I was like, I got a secret weapon. It's the church, because they're the most generous people that I know. So please, if you're willing to just help in any way, I'm going to be at the other side of this wall in the community room, and I'd love to chat. But thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah, and so after the service, stop by, talk to Derek, ask him and his team questions while they're here. But we're super excited to see how we can serve and come alongside of ACE, which is already doing incredible work in our community. We're going to continue the series that we've been in called The Thing Behind the Thing. So pull out whatever it is you use, take notes or lean into the message, and let's get ready for week 7. Thank you, Seth. I was looking for it. And I was just going to pray and say we can go home. But we've been in this series where we have been wanting to kind of unpack a little bit of why people do the things that they do. And is there something that's underneath our lives that's kind of driving and shaping how we see and how we experience life? And we've been looking at it through the lens of what we call primal questions. And so our prayer is not that you would feel like after this series you can fix something that's broken, because we don't believe anything is broken. Really, the hope and the heart of this is to give you guys language to understand what you need emotionally in a relationship and how to go about effectively communicating that. And here's what I will say. If we can't understand that God is the one that is fulfilling this emotional need, whatever it might be for you, whatever your highest emotional need is, if we can't understand that God is fulfilling that need for us, can I just tell you that we will never have it fulfilled by anyone else on this side of eternity? That's the hope in this, but we want to give you guys the language. And so after graduate school, after seminary, I did a residency program at a church in Atlanta. And I remember meeting with my director at the time, and who was letting me know that I got accepted to this residency program. And he sat me down, and I'll never forget it. We're sitting in a Starbucks, and he said to me, he says, hey, just so you know, when you show up tomorrow, you are nobody. We don't care where you came from. We don't care what you've done. You're a nobody. And in my head, I'm thinking, wait, did I just sign up for the military? Like, the way he was talking, I was like, this is not what I signed up for. And so I remember I was going as a part of this residency program to become a worship pastor, worship director. And so the thing that I was excited about the most was actually doing that on a Sunday morning. And I just remember 1 month going by and still hadn't done anything. I'm doing random tasks around the church, cleaning the church, all these things, going to meetings. And in the meetings, I was told, you don't talk unless you're spoken to. I'm telling you, I was like confused the first month. I was like, is this the military masked as a church? And I was getting paid so well that I could not show up. I mean, they were paying me $250 a month. And so it was like a dream, right? And so I remember the second month goes by, and I still haven't gotten one opportunity to actually do the thing that I came here to do. A third month goes by, and all the while, my mom is asking me like, hey, so like, when are you gonna sing on a Sunday morning? And I was like, I don't know, maybe next week. And it was just that for every week. It was, oh, maybe next week, maybe next week. And as time went on, the longer it went on, I could just see that my mom is looking at me like, man, maybe you're just not good enough. I mean, they're not paying you anything, so it's not really costing them a whole lot. And it's been 4 months now, and you still haven't done anything, the thing that you wanted to do. And when we get to the 8-month mark, and it still hasn't happened. And I'm like, do I even work here? Like, I'm going to all the meetings. I'm doing everything you're asking me to do. And then somebody joins our residency program, a new person. And within 2 months, they're doing the thing that I have been wanting to do for 8 months. Oh, I know. Let me tell you, I was frustrated. And so I go to my director, and I'm like, I'm pissed, okay? And I go to my director, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, I've been here for 8 months. I'm doing everything you're asking me to do. And how come this person is getting this opportunity that I've wanted? This is why I'm here. And I think maybe we've all had some moments like that, right? I think about maybe for you as you were excited about a new project that you had pitched at work maybe, but it was given to someone else and you felt like your ideas and efforts were invisible. Maybe you applied for a leadership role that you were well qualified for, only to see it go to someone who had just joined the team, like my experience, making you doubt your value and place in the organization. Maybe on a sports team, despite giving your best in practice, you were always benched during important games, making you doubt your abilities and place on the team. Right? All I wanted to know and believe in that moment was that I wasn't hopelessly bad or defective. And for others to know and believe, especially my parents, that I wasn't a failure. I didn't want anyone to think less of me. But imagine doing all the things that your parents want you to do. I went to school, I got a bachelor's degree. Then I went to seminary, I got a master's degree. And you come home and you tell your parents, hey, guess what? Guess what my salary is? $250 a month. And guess what? I'm moving back home. And guess what? I still have not done the thing that I thought I was gonna do at this job that's paying me $250 a month and has forced me to move back in the house with you guys. But I got a master's degree, doing great, conquering life, right? The only thing that was playing in my head was like, man, like my parents clearly must think less of me. But for some of us, our self-worth is so wounded, you feel trapped in hustling for your value. You stay up late at night taking on every project, every extra thing you could do at work, believing that if you're not constantly productive, others will see you as lazy and unworthy. Even when you're sick, you refuse to take a day off, convincing yourself that resting is a sign of weakness and will make others question your dedication and value. How many of us believe that? Right? Rest is for the weak. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I used to say that all the time. Literally would say, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Right? Maybe for you, it's you go out of your way to do things for others like organizing events or running errands, not out of genuine desire, but because you need their praise to feel like you're enough. And you find yourself trapped on the hamster wheel of performance, constantly wondering, do I matter? Do I have a right to exist? Do I have a right to be here? And why does it feel like life is always against me? And if this is you grew up in a home that was highly controlled. Maybe perfectionism was everywhere, but approval and acceptance was nowhere to be found. Maybe you felt like all of your family's energy went towards trying to fix what was wrong or bad, or anger and conflict were quickly dismissed by looks of disapproval or just plain denial. And it's possible in your home environment, being good felt like a moving target. Whether it was a mother who was obsessed with your appearance, sounds like mine if you know my mom. There's no holes in my pants, but sorry, there are tattoos on my arms. Or maybe it was a father who was critical of your hobbies and interests. What you started to believe then, and maybe what you still believe now, is that you were never enough. And maybe it was older siblings who picked on you and loved to cut you down, or a parent who was shocked by your normal desires or curiosities. Whatever your experience was, if you're taking notes, you can write this down. The pressure to be good in everything was implicit and explicit. The pressure to be good in everything was implicit and explicit. Even when you did well, it wasn't enough. You felt there was always room for improvement, and the emphasis was placed on fixing what was wrong rather than choosing to celebrate what went right. And all of this has left you asking subconsciously, am I good enough? Am I good enough? And that question maybe is driving everything that you do. It's shaping how you see and experience life. Gideon is a man whose story we find in the Bible, who I believe is wondering if he is good enough. Does he matter? And before we meet Gideon, the Israelites were in a period of oppression under the Midianites due to their disobedience to God. And all of this has left the Israelites in a dire situation where they are impoverished and desperate. And in their distress, the Israelites cry out to God for help. And God responds by raising up a deliverer, Gideon. And when the angel of the Lord first appears to Gideon, he's hiding in a wine press, threshing wheat in secret to avoid detection by the Midianites. And this only highlights just how severe the oppression and how desperate the Israelites find themselves. Look at what Judges 6:11-15, this is what it says. It says, then the angel of the Lord came and sat beneath the great tree at Ophrah, which belonged to Joash, the clan of Abiezer. Gideon, son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of a winepress to hide the grain from the Midianites. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, mighty hero, the Lord is with you. Sir, Gideon replied, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say the Lord brought us out of Egypt, but now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us over to the Midianites? Then the Lord turned to him and said, go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you. But Lord, Gideon replied, how can I rescue Israel? My clan is the weakest in the whole tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least in my entire family. Before God, through the angel, tells Gideon what he wants him to do, what he's sending him to do, the angel declares over Gideon, you are a mighty hero, and the Lord is with you. And then Gideon gets the download from the angel of what God is wanting him to do. And even after the angel declaring and speaking over Gideon that you are a mighty hero, Gideon's response is, well, I'm the least in my entire family. How could you send me to rescue Israel when I am the least in my entire family? And there's a couple things we can gather about Gideon. Gideon is growing up in a society where tribal and familial status is crucial. And so the tribe that he belonged to, which he considered one of, if not the weakest tribe in Israel, and within this tribe, his family was not prominent or powerful. And so this sense of growing up in low social status is impacting how Gideon perceives himself. And he describes himself as the least in his family. He saw himself as the youngest, the smallest, the least important in his household, and this contributes to his feelings of inadequacy and a lack of confidence in his own abilities. And in the ancient Near Eastern culture where family lineage, birth order, and tribal affiliation were having the least influence or authority, Gideon most likely internalized all of these cultural norms, leading him to view himself as less capable or not enough compared to others in his family. And on top of that, we have to remember that the Israelites were living in a severe state of fear and oppression. And this environment of constant threat and poverty could have further diminished Gideon's sense of self-worth, as he might have felt powerless to change his situation, reinforcing his belief that he was not good enough to lead or make a difference. And all Gideon ever wanted was to know that God, who created him to be him, was enough, and he was valued. And when this deep emotional need goes unmet, we see it play out in three ways for Gideon. And so this may be your primal question, and if it is your primal question, am I good enough? And you realize that, man, this is shaping how I see and experience life. It can play out in three ways. I want to show you three ways it plays out for Gideon. The first way it plays out for Gideon is shame. Shame in this case refers to the feelings of unworthiness and self-doubt that can arise from a deep-seated belief that you are not good enough. Look at what Judges 6, 36 through 40, this is what it says. It says, then Gideon said to God, if you are truly going to use me to rescue Israel as you promised, prove it to me in this way. I will put a wool fleece on the threshing floor tonight. If the fleece is wet with dew in the morning, but the ground is dry, then I will know that you're going to help me rescue Israel as you promised. And that is just what happened. When Gideon got up early in the next morning, he squeezed the fleece and wrung out a whole bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, please don't be angry with me, but let me make one more request. Let me use this fleece for one more test. This time, let the fleece remain dry while the ground around it is wet with dew. So then God did as Gideon asked. The fleece was dry in the morning, but the ground was covered with dew. And so despite receiving a divine message and the assurance and confirmation, witnessing miraculous signs, Gideon's request for additional confirmation and assurance with the fleece shows us his ongoing struggle with shame and self-doubt. That his need for repeated signs from God highlights this internal battle that's happening with self-doubt and shame. And as he seeks external validation to overcome his feelings of inadequacy, and for some of us, if we're honest with ourselves in trying to have this question, am I good enough, answered positively by others in our lives, the shame is so deep. The reality that is set in for Gideon and maybe for you, and if you're taking notes, you can write this down, is when you believe you're not enough, nothing will ever be enough. When you believe you're not enough, nothing will ever be enough. God does exactly what Gideon asked him to do. And he says, well, God, don't be mad at me. I got one more request. I need you to do one more trick. And then maybe I'll start to believe. But I wonder deep down, was it ever going to be enough for Gideon? No matter how many times God reassured him, was it ever going to actually be enough? The second way this plays out for Gideon in his scramble is insecurity. Look at what Judges 8, 22 through 27, it says this, and the Israelites said to Gideon, be our ruler. You and your son and your grandson will be our rulers, for you have rescued us from Midian. But Gideon replied, I will not rule over you, nor will my son. The Lord will rule over you. However, I do have one request. Gideon loves requests. that each of you give me an earring from the plunder you collected from your fallen enemies, the enemies being Ishmaelites, all wore gold earrings. Gladly, they replied. They spread out a cloak, and each one threw in a gold earring he had gathered from the plunder. The weight of the gold earrings was 43 pounds, not including the royal ornaments and pendants, the purple clothing worn by the kings of Midian, or the chains around their necks of their camels. And so Gideon made a sacred ephod from the gold and put it in Ophrah, his hometown. But soon all the Israelites prostituted themselves by worshiping it, and it became a trap for Gideon and his family. And so God gives Gideon victory. But because when you believe you're not enough, nothing will ever be enough, it wasn't enough for Gideon. And so what does he do? He essentially builds a trophy from the pieces and the fragments of the people that God allowed them to defeat.